What's going on, everyone? My name is Mike McFarland, and this is Mike versus Marketing Automation. Welcome to the first episode. Thank you so much for watching. You didn't have to, but I really, really appreciate that you did. And hopefully a lot of you guys will watch this as well. It's our first episode, so let me give you a little bit of a lowdown as to kind of what this series is going to be all about. We are going to just be nerding out on Marketo, on Hubspot, on Pardot, on Eloqua, in the sense that we're going to be building processes and assets across all four of these platforms so that you, the viewer, the person on the other side of this screen, camera, knows what it's like to build an email in Marketo versus Eloqua, knows what it's like to integrate Salesforce.com with HubSpot and Pardot. We're gonna build lead scoring models. We're gonna do all the things that you can do across these that all four of these platforms can do. But we're gonna show you how each platform does it differently and what functionality you have available to you. So that's the premise of this series. So starting today, first episode, this guy right here, we're gonna be building a welcome nurture program. Now you may be asking yourself, what is a welcome nurture program? Let me explain it to you. It's an automated process that looks for new records to your database so that you can begin a sequence of welcoming them. Get it? Welcoming them. They're new. They're coming in, so we're going to welcome them. Anyway, it's a great way to keep folks that have shown interest in you engaged. And it's a really good way to educate people, especially as they start to learn more about you and you wanting to make sure that you've got that intent, you've got that engagement, that you can keep that engagement going by providing relevant, personalized content. It's 2023. Relevant, personalized content. That's what it's got to be. Anyway, let's jump in. Now, before we get started, we have to have a nice, even playing field for these platforms to not compete against, but to showcase against each other. So I came up with a bit of a recipe for a very basic welcome, nurture, program, campaign, whatever you'd like to call it. Every build needs to have at least one piece of entry criteria. It needs to send at least 2 emails. There needs to be time between each email send. And we need to be able to check for email activity so that we can send someone a notification when someone does something, or we can move someone to a nurture program when they don't. Let's look at Eloqua. This is the campaign canvas. Ooh, drag and drop, so smooth, so fluid, so pretty. All these colors, very nice. This is where you build your automation for your marketing. Get it? Marketing automation? No? Okay, moving on. The campaign canvas is a drag and drop interface that allows you to plot your decisions and actions that you want to run as part of your marketing campaign. So to start with our welcome program, we have a segment set up that is going to look for contacts that have been created in the last hour. This is using a simple filter to look at the date created field. From there, that new contacts are then held for 1 day. And the reason that we're doing this is that we don't want to overwhelm someone with communications. Say if they just came in through a form and we sent them an autoresponder, and then potentially a minute later we send them another email. Not a great user experience. So let's hold them for a day and then bombard them with email 1. And by bombard, we're educating people. We're educating people. That's why we're using tools like marketing automation to help better communicate with our customers. Anywho, we've got email 1 here. We've got it scheduled to send out during the hours of 9 to 6 in Eastern Standard Time, Monday to Friday. We will then wait for 3 days after that email gets sent, proceed with sending email 2 again during Eastern Time business hours. And this is where things get fun. So we have a decision rule set up that looks to see if the recipient of the email, specifically email 2, has clicked through the email at least once. It's going to evaluate this in near real time for 3 days. If at any time during that 3-day period the recipient clicks through, they're going to get oh, they were supposed to get a notification. But Eloqua doesn't have notification functionality in the campaign canvas. That's kind of a bummer. Anyway, there's lots of other things you can do. There are some hacky workarounds you can do to trigger notifications in Eloqua. I won't get into that today. That's not what the purpose of these videos are for. However, if after 3 days you do not click through the email, we are going to send you through to our general nurture. Bon voyage. Let's look at Marketo. This is a smart campaign where you build your automation for your marketing. Get it? Is this joke getting old yet? Smart campaigns are a drag and drop interface that can be used to identify your triggers and audience for your campaign deployments and for your automation. And I also say can because you can also use smart campaigns for data automation. So to start with our simple email welcome campaign, we're going to jump into our smart list. This is where you set up your triggers and your audience definitions for your campaign. So this is where people are going to enter from. So in this scenario here, we've got a trigger set up that is basically looking for any time a person record is created. Notice I use person. In other videos, I'll use prospect, I'll use contact. All of these platforms have different names, but they all essentially mean the same thing, which is an email address. So when a record is created, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to wait for 1 day so that we don't overwhelm them by sending potentially content that they have, not content that they just received. That's not the purpose of marketing automation. If they just submitted a form, for example, and got an autoresponder with the content that they requested, the last thing we want to do is bombard them with an email right after that happens. So let's give them a day. So we're going to give them a day. We're going to send out email 1. And then we're going to wait 3 days and then send out email 2. Now, after email 2 is sent out, we have a separate smart campaign that is listening for someone to click through email 2. When that happens, this is where we can spark Marketo, get it, spark, into action and send out an alert to the person owner of the record or to specific email recipients based on the email addresses that we enter here. Jumping back to our original smart campaign, we have a 3-day wait step after email 2 is sent out, and then we're going to check to see if someone did not click on email 2. If they did not click on email 2, we are going to add them to our general nurture engagement program. So we've got our criteria defined here. We're going to add them to stream 1 within our general nurture. See you later, alligator. Let's look at Pardot. This is Engagement Studio, where you build your automation for your... Okay, I'll stop. Engagement Studio is a modular interface that can be configured to automatically trigger actions based on specific activities happening. So to start our welcome campaign, we have a list set up that is simply looking for prospects that have been created within the last day. This evaluation will happen during business hours that I've defined here and during this time zone. Once a new prospect has been identified, they will get fed in and it will be held for 1 day before we send out email 1. And again, the reason why we're doing this is that we don't want to overwhelm our prospects with communications when they first enter our database. We'll slowly drip it out to them. So we wait for 1 day, we send out email 1. Very similar process as we go to email 2, except now we're going to wait for 3 days before we send out email 2. Now, after email 2 is sent out, we have a trigger set up to look for anyone that clicks on any link in email 2 during a 3-day period. If that action happens, we'll run a notify user action to send an alert to a Pardot configured user. And you can see that right here. If after 3 days, no link has been clicked on in the email, then we're going to go through and send someone over to the you can't add someone to another workflow from this workflow, which is kind of a bummer. But alas, we can add that prospect to a list and then reference that list as a feeder into a general nurture. Later, tater. Let's look at HubSpot. This is a workflow where you build your automation for marketing. Okay, I'll stop. Workflows are a modular interface that can be configured to automatically trigger actions based on specific activities happening. To start with our welcome campaign, we have an enrollment trigger that is simply looking at contact records that have been created within the last day. If during that time period a record has been created, which is the only time a record could be created based on their create date, anywho, that contact then flows into the workflow and they are held for 1 day before we send out email 1. Like I mentioned before, the reason why we're doing this, we don't want to bombard, we don't want to overwhelm, we don't want to throw the kitchen sink at those who are simply downloading a piece of content off our website, for example. So let's just let this simmer, let it marinate. Let's just let it cool off just a little bit. We want to keep that engagement up, but we're going to wait just a day before we send out email 1. After email 1 is sent, we will then wait for 3 days and send out email 2. Now, after email 2 is set up, we have a delay set up so that for 3 days, we will check to see if a contact clicks through a link in email 2. If during that 3-day period the contact clicks through, we are going to send a Slack notification with the details of the person who clicked through, as well as the specific channels and or users we want to have receive this message. If during that 3-day period the contact does not click through the email, then they are simply moved to another workflow. In this case, we're moving them over to our lead nurture program. They will sail away on a beautiful sea of personalized email content. See ya. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching the first episode. How cool is that? Really cool for me. So thank you for watching the first episode of Mike Versus. Lots more of these to come. If you want to get in touch with me, we'll have all my contact information in the description of this video. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit notifications. I think those are the 3 things YouTubers say. I'm not a YouTuber yet. Maybe, you never know. See you next time.